What was that first project that you guys worked on together?
The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh wow! And that was how many years ago?
It's like 2012 maybe.
Wow!
And that was like.
And that was the first project you worked on with him. You were in New York, sleeping on the floor. And how long did that production go for?
For a year and a half maybe. You know, I think it was 9 months, 10 months of shooting. I got myself into all sorts of trouble. Then once that was finally over, we just, you know, a week later hopped on the next project. Once that finished up, we landed back in Los Angeles, hopped on another project, and so it was a whole host of years that were just like non-stop working and learning. You know, I grew up working on film sets with him when I was 14 years old and playing in bands. He would just be like, all right, Michael, whatever you're doing today, you're not doing that. You're going to come and work on this for whatever, however amount of time, a couple days here and there, just stuff. And so it was always sort of a backbone. And I don't know why I'm saying unsolicited information, but like,
Cause it's stars aligned, bro.
Yeah.
You can do what the you want
right here.
Drew's gonna bleep that out too. So it's good. Thanks for being here.
Dude, thank you for having me.
Y'all know what it is. Stars aligned. Once again, we're here in Los Angeles, California at the beautiful Hotel June. And we have the one and only Michael Legato in the house. Gonna ask him a few questions, share with us more about his journey, and just so happy to have you, man, and being here. And once again, thank you.
Oh man, thank you for having me.
100%. So let's roll into it.
Okay.
First question off the top. Who are you? Who is Michael Legato?
It's both a profound question and totally not a profound question at the same time. Michael Legato, as you know. I take pictures, I make films, I work on other people's films. Spent a little time and doing a couple different things, been on sort of a strange journey, but ultimately visual arts is kind of what I seem to have always done and always wanted to do. So it's a very subtle, way of saying I don't know how to answer that question.
Yes, perfect. Beautiful. We'll roll into the next one. So where does some of your inspiration come from for creating your art?
Well, I think that's sort of, that's an interesting one that I've been examining a lot as of recently. A lot of, at least for me personally, like I've always been, I started off my life being very quiet and very, just always an observationalist. I just like to watch more than anything else. I'm not necessarily the first person to have an answer or things like that. It's like I don't know a lot. Like I just sort of I like to watch, and so as I grew up, that's always been sort of my strength. Is I take the temperature of a room and I look around and I see what this person's doing. That this person feels this way, or this person might feel that way. And working on this might be unexpected over there. Or, and what I typically like and sort of what inspires me, especially since in the terms of my photography, is I like people and I like faces.
Yeah.
And I like learning about somebody that someone else doesn't readily know. It's those are only the kind of things that you can really get just by watching. I don't like to talk a lot. I talk when I'm nervous. or I say nothing at all. And I usually prefer and hope that I say nothing at all and just sort of let the other things sort of happen as they do. But everything that I've ever done, everything that I've been interested in doing has always been based off of just sitting down and watching and observing something. And even the more conceptual stuff that I do or like to do is always based on that, you know?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, just being able to see some of your art and the pieces that you're working on, not that I had an answer, but it comes out in your artwork, what the intention behind your inspiration and seeing that. And it's really heavily connected to people and emotions and how people are interacting. And I really resonate with that, coming from a space of producing music and DJing and observing the room and picking a specific track, and you know, and it's interesting because it is about really like just being quiet most of the times and observing.
Yeah, measuring the vibe.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, you know, usually it provides some sort of strange opportunity that you weren't anticipating, that you couldn't have possibly planned for. It's just, you look at a room and then you react.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works out totally in your favor. It's like you can offer something that, you can offer a bit of insight that no one else is thinking about because they're thinking about all sorts of other things.
True.
You know, they're not able to see yourselves the way that, you know, you would be able to see a crowd and measure, okay, well, this is sort of happening, oh, they do this. And it's just a bunch of micro reactions to, you know, something that you can't really explain either. It's just like weird, you know, human math. You know?
Yeah.
So like, you know, I'm terrible at math, but better at that. So.
Straight up. Yeah, man, thank you. Okay, next one. I would love for you to share with us a little bit about your journey so far in the film industry and what's led you to this point in your career.
Well, that's an interesting one. Well, maybe not interesting at all. We'll find out. It doesn't matter. I'm already off to a great start.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling.
But you know, you know, my particular journey, it started off because I grew up in it. Mm-hmm. You know, my father works in film and he's very accomplished, and because of that, I was very hesitant to do anything film related. And so I actually started my journey in music, and I really wanted to do something that was like absolutely different, could never be compared to anybody else in my family, anybody else that, you know, like my father, for example. It's like I wanted to just be whatever I was. Even at a really young age, I only wanted to do something that was my own. And I followed the music for a little while, and I had an affinity to it, but it wasn't something that I was like incredibly talented. It didn't fill up the bucket. It was just something that got me sort of there. Some of the sensations that I liked and some of the things that I liked. And it wasn't until much later that I discovered that even my interest in music was actually sort of film related in a weird way. Like I used to, when my sister went off to college, sort of the funny thing about us all is that each one of my siblings, and myself included, had a photographic component that was different from the other. You know, my oldest sister, her boyfriend was in a band, and I looked up to them so much. I thought they were the coolest people in the entire world. Totally not. But like, I absolutely loved them.
Yeah.
And she took a bunch of pictures of them. She took a bunch of black and white photographs of them. And because I was interested in music and I wanted to be in a band and I wanted to replicate whatever the coolness factor that I thought I was seeing and was seeing, you know, I used her photographs. So when she went off to college, I used to sneak into her room and pull out her trunk full of photographs of all the band, you know, the photographs that she took. And it's like, whatever that was, I wanted to do that. So I literally, like, you know, in the least inventive way possible, just wholesale copied it. It was like, okay, you know, in this band there's 5 people, there's 2 rhythm guitarists, there's a lead guitarist, the lead singer has a guitar, there's a cool guitar, you know, this person has that interesting instrument, and they're making something and they're playing certain venues that, like, man, I just want to do whatever that is. Yeah. And so I went out and found a bunch of people that fit the mold. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that I was casting a production. It's like, this person's not a great singer, but they have a certain quality and they're not afraid, and so great, they'll be the singer. This person's a great drummer, this person's a good bassist, this person can play a little bit of guitar. You know, I can bullshit my way through a guitar solo. It sounds terrible, but maybe it looked cool at the time, I don't know. And so it wasn't until later where I realized, oh, you know, and once I also too, like once I sort of lived the fantasy, it was over. Like, I didn't want it anymore. Like, you know, the bands broke up. I'd, you know, achieved whatever small goals that my 13, 14-year-old self had at the time. And then it was sort of over, and so I began sort of searching for something else, and so that transitioned into wanting to score for films. You know, it's like that was me dabbling my toes a little bit. I don't want to really do movies,
Yeah.
but I want to do music that's still my own, you know. And so I met this guitar teacher. His name's Carlos Rafael Rivera, and he was a classical composing student and a guitar teacher, and he was teaching me classical guitar, and I wasn't really interested, and I didn't want to do the work either. I wasn't very disciplined at learning my skills in music theory, and so I wanted to do something that I thought was cooler, which is to sort of study, you know, cinematic music. Mm-hmm. And he was great at it. Like, his music that he recorded, I was like, that's, you know, how can you possibly beat that? And then throughout the journey of that, of sort of making my classes more about that, he became interested in being a film composer.
Wow.
And then once he told me that he, you know, was going to be a film composer or wanted to do that, it sort of snapped into focus. Like, oh, I want to be a director. Like, I want to take images. So I picked up a camera and I started shooting again. And then, you know, I sort of picked that up on and off over the years and went to film school. And at a certain point, I sort of gamed the system a little bit, or took advantage of a flaw in the digital system, and I took all my film courses, and there was a glitch that said that I had done all my, you know, general ed courses. I didn't do them. But in the computer it said I did, so I just didn't say anything. You know, I just continued taking more classes, and finally I ran out of classes that weren't giving me any credits, and I just kept taking more production classes, more and more. And finally, like 4 years in, I get a call, and they're like, hey, so you haven't done any of these. You shouldn't have been able to advance into any of these other classes. None of these new classes you're going to take are going to give you credits. Now you have to go back and do like math and history. And I was like, no, this can't happen. This can't happen. And so I had 2 semesters worth of general eds. Wow. And I was doing a whole host of other things at the time. I put on a film festival, I was making a movie, you know, doing all sorts of stuff. And I put myself in an acting course and wanted to really learn how to direct. And I really didn't want to take a math class. And things were sort of naturally wrapping up in San Francisco, which is where I went to class and went to school. And my father called. He was like, all right, Michael, you don't want to do these general ed classes. You know, you come to New York, you're going to sleep on the floor, and you're going to work on this movie with me. It's just a star movie. And so that's what I did. Wow. So I left San Francisco within 2 weeks, and I was in New York, sleeping on the floor, you know, making, you know, no money at all, working on this sort of movie that was much larger than I'd ever anticipated ever a movie feeling like. It was overwhelming, but that was my first entree into this. And then ever since, I worked on a couple projects with him, traveled around the world a little bit with him, then decided to go off on my own and did something completely unrelated to film for a while, just sort of by accident. Not totally unrelated, it had elements to it. And then it wasn't until, you know, probably 9 months ago that I sort of rejoined my father, and we did this sort of most recent incredible project together. It turned out to be a really great thing for both of us. And
wow,
you know.
So what was that first project that you guys worked on together?
The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh wow! And that was how many years ago?
It's like 2012 maybe.
Wow.
And that was like.
And that was the first project you worked on with him. You were in New York, sleeping on the floor. And how long did that production go for?
For a year and a half, maybe. You know, I think it was 9 months, 10 months of shooting. I got myself into all sorts of trouble, then once that was finally over, we just, you know, a week later hopped on the next project. Once that finished up, we landed it back in Los Angeles, hopped on another project, and so it was a whole host of years that were just like nonstop working and learning. I grew up working on film sets with him when I was 14 years old and playing in bands. He would just be like, all right, Michael, whatever you're doing today, you're not doing that. You're going to come and work on this for whatever, however amount of time, a couple days here and there, just small little stuff. And so it was always sort of a backbone. And I don't know why I'm saying unsolicited information, but
Cause it stars align, bro.
Yeah.
You can do what the f you
written
want.
right here.
Drew's gonna bleep that out too, so it's all good.
But yeah, no, it was an intimidating process. It was like I learned a lot. I was always approaching whatever I was doing from the context of a student, and it was honestly really hard to break out of that after a while. And so I had to force myself to once again leave and go find myself again. And that's, I'm still on that process. I'm still doing that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, accomplished a fair amount of other things, and I'm still a student even now. Like,
Yeah. Well, I think why I wanted to talk about that too is such a powerful concept, like the experience, right? Like you literally moved to New York, you slept on a floor, you didn't make money for a year and a half because you had a feeling.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is something for up and coming artists to really put into perspective.
Well, you know, I think the thing that I've always rejected, sort of foolishly so, is that, you know, I didn't want whatever the trappings were of coming along. I didn't want whatever, you know, I didn't want to experience whatever other people would easily say about me by working with my father. But he was the best teacher I've ever had. He's an artist and I was the apprentice. And I learned some of the greatest things that I've ever learned about anything, not just about life, but about art, about filmmaking, from him. And it's like, it was hard to break away. It's like I could work, and I did work for other people, and it was like every time I did, it was like, I mean, I was at the top of the mountain here, and I was learning the most incredible lessons, and I was doing things differently. You know, I wasn't doing sort of the stock and trade version of whatever my position was. I was doing all sorts of stuff and getting my hands in all sorts of different pots. And you know, it wasn't until the pandemic actually where I realized that, you know, none of that was bad. All of that was what I was supposed to have done. I should have done that. Like it was, you know, it wasn't written, but it was, you know, supposed to be that. You know, I fought it for so long and I wasted so much time fighting it. I should have just sat there and been present and just learned 10% more.
Wow.
The 10% that I was experiencing, fighting the moment, fighting the experience, fighting the context of living in someone else. That's all bullshit. It's all ego stuff that everybody sort of, you know, thinks about that's not really real.
Yeah.
You just, if you're there and you're learning, that's all that really matters. And whatever it looks like, that's the kiss of death. You know, forget that thought. You know, you just sort of do.
That's wild, man. Thank you. Can we give a shout out to your dad? Shout out, shout out Michael's dad.
He is unequivocally the man.
Yeah.
He is the man.
Yeah.
I you know, now that I'm not like a little brat about it, it's like, dude, what an absolute blessing. And I, you know, wanted to throw it away so many times, and for what, you know?
For sure. Wow. Thank you. Yeah. That's it. Should we roll into the next one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Please.
This is another good one. What is one piece of advice you can give to an up and coming artist, producer, musician, entrepreneur?
I think in a more general sense, this is just my own lesson, my own, is that I spent so much time being ambitious and planning for a destination. And I spent so much time fixating on that, you know, that I wasn't really living presently. I only like just, you know, the pandemic sort of revealed all sorts of interesting truths, but like that one in particular I think was the most profound, is that I spent so much time wanting to be somewhere else that I wasn't appreciating all the interesting things that were happening, all the things that I was learning. I like threw them away. Like I like didn't want to look at, you know, it's like I was never happy. Like I was never satisfied doing it because I wasn't really appreciating what was really happening in front of me. And, you know, had I learned that when I was 22 years old, I just understood that, you know, who knows where it could have gone. You know, the long road is often the short road. You know, you take the long path of like really observing and really appreciating what you're doing. You don't have to gas yourself up. You don't have to say, oh, I'm doing something great. You can just be satisfied with the feedback that you're getting from the little individual stuff that you're experiencing. That really is enough. There really isn't anything more that you need. If you want to be an artist and you have a destination in mind, sure, be specific. I want to be here. But how you get there, do not try to plan that. That is like, you know, if you want to just ruin your creativity, if you want to just insert doubt into everything that you do, you know, plan all the little steps in between. You know, once you get a little more refined, once you sort of grow up a little bit and have a little experience, sure, you can get a little more methodical. I'm going to do this, and this is going to lead to that, sure. In the beginning, just appreciate what you're doing, and you'll learn 10 times more, and you'll create 10 times more interesting, you know, art. It's the way to do it.
Wow, it's powerful. It's real. Oof.
Some people are really good at that. You know, most people. You know,
Yeah. No, I agree. That resonates with me. That's something I could say I've learned in the last 5 years, you know, to really be more conscious of it, to the point where, like, every day I wake up, it becomes like a mantra for me. It's like, dude, like, remember, remind yourself. If that's what it takes every day, just to remind yourself of that so you never forget it, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I got into a habit of finishing a project and not releasing it. Just did that so many different times. You know, it's either by the end of the project I felt like I outgrew it or whatever it was, or I got distracted with some other work and I didn't quite, you know, put it out there. So for a long time, nobody knew what I was worth, and I didn't know what I was worth because I never released it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't like it because it wasn't, you know, some unbelievable standard that I set for myself that isn't even real. You know, it's just like a weird thing that I did, probably in part because I was, you know, scared of not being good. And it has nothing to do with that. Like, art has nothing to do with being good. It just has to do with
being authentic,
being honest,
and being honest and being original and being yourself. And like that's another thing too. I think all, especially musicians and producers, battle with too. It's like, it's the same thing. You'll work on so much music and you won't release it because you're self-conscious of it, or you play the beat for your homie and he's not even listening, and you know, he's like talking about something else, and you're like, man, like, is this shit hot or is it not? But once you get to that point where you're like, wait, like, this is me, and me is hot. Like, me is good enough. If there's one person that resonates with it and I make an impact on that person, then really I've done my job of creating art.
Yeah, and I don't think like the fear goes away. Like, I've seen directors totally freak out.
Really?
Totally have like freakouts that they probably wish that nobody was watching or was there for, and like, just it's really simple human stuff where it's like, you know, these are the people that are titans of the industry that are genuinely good at what they do, but they also then sort of, you know, got into a weird sort of pattern where now they're thinking about what it looks like rather than what they're doing, rather than what choices they need to make. Sort of based on the conversation that we had earlier, it's all, you know, curation. Curate a moment, you create a shot, you create a piece of music, you create anything in the world. You know, being an artist is making a choice, and that choice doesn't have to be connected to anything else. You know, obviously it'd be great if you made the right choice that made you $10 million and did the next thing, but as soon as that starts entering the sphere of working, you know, you have to knock it off. Like, and I've seen really extremely talented people be haunted by the same thing, and it actually made me go home and like sleep a little easier. It's like, oh, thank God people are human. Like, Jesus, like, like, oh my God, thank God he had a terrible day. That sounds terrible, but it's just like, oh my God, like, at least it's, you know, he's 50 years old and he's supremely talented, and even he's like, you know, falling into the same trap as anybody can fall into.
Wow. Powerful. Whew. All right, that leads us into our next one. It seems in alignment with that. What is one key lesson you would say you've learned over the past 12 months?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because I'm still processing it. These last, like, 6 to 12 months have been like a crucial one in my life. It wasn't brand new territory, it was retreading old territory that there's a concept that I applied to myself. It's the Icarus concept. It's like I sort of chase the highs of things, you know, when I get a good feedback on something, it's like I want more of it. Like, I'm not consistent. I like the highs and the lows. It's all extreme. And, so it's like, you know, you're hero one day and you're terrible the next, you know, it's like, and all of it's just sort of the internal, you know, chasing of, you know, the next high. And it wasn't until the last 6 to 12 months where I had an opportunity to revisit a similar enough experience that I had before and pause a little bit more often and sort of say, okay, I've been here before. I'm getting really excited about this thing. But how about instead of, wanting, to multiply that feeling, how about I just tap into that, just observe it, take a breath, wipe the sweat off my hands, and just do it again the next day after that. It's a building block. And if you can think clearly, you can just sort of like keep yourself at rest. Once again, be present, be a little kind to yourself as well when you screw up or say something dumb or whatever it is, or do the wrong thing, or, you make one weird choice that's like, myself, like, fuck, like, I was like leading all this way, I was building up to this thing, and I just said, run the wrong thing, and now it suddenly feels like it all fell apart. All that, once again, is self-fabricated. You just take a moment, take a breath, and just build on the thing that's right in front of you. So much angst and anxiety will go away. You still have it, you still stay up all night, and want to throw up and can't sleep, and all the stuff that goes along with it. The self-doubt is at least always there for me. It's always like the minute I do something that's great, I have a drop-off point. If I have like a great week, I'll have another week where it's like, oh my God, I can't, I'm revisiting all these things that I did, and it's just sort of, it's all detritus of the mind. You just, the times where I felt the most content, the most happy, and the most successful in my heart, so I just sort of blocked it all out and said, all right, all my human emotions. I took this as part of the, when I deviated from film a little bit, I went on this sort of other journey. I worked in aeronautics for a while, and it was a combination. It was a hybrid between, film and, this other thing, and it was completely different than anything I ever experienced before. But at one point, I had to take a test before this mission. There was like a pilot's, self-examination test, and you had to take a quick course on being a pilot. And being a pilot is just like being anything else. Like, you have a checklist of internal things that you have to, understand all at the same time. It's like, okay, I'm feeling nervous for some reason while I'm flying this very large plane full of people. What is that? What am I really feeling right now? Is it A, am I getting food poisoning? B, is it, anxiety from having too much to drink the night before? It's all these sort of things that you sort of have to self-evaluate, because while you're up there, you're in a heightened state, and you can be experiencing something that you don't really know that you're experiencing. It could be a heart attack, it could be a stroke, it could be anxiety, it could be all those things, but you have to be very measured and very pragmatic about, okay, I'm feeling this way, my hands are sweaty, that's not typical, what's happening here? This, okay, can't be that, can't be this, can't be that, oh, it could be this, I'm feeling something in my, it's whatever the things are, but you deal with it in a very pragmatic way, and that like totally resonated with me. Anytime you're doing something, anytime you're in the zone creating something, things start to, it's like you're speeding down a highway.
Yeah.
And you're in a moving vehicle. If you make a wrong turn, if you stop short, if you cruise into another lane, cataclysm could, at least it feels that way, could occur. But the self-check, the human things you can't get rid of.
Yeah.
You just have to learn to live with them and observe them for what they are. And that's how you get through the day. That's how you land the plane. That's how you take off the plane. That's how you fly it all, the many hours in between. It's just understanding what your triggers are, what's going on. And then when you discover them, you put them away in the box where they're supposed to go. You don't let it spiral out of control. You still have, a mission to do. It's the same with your art.
Woo. My man. Thank you, bro. Thank you. I love that. Okay, cool. We got two more.
Okay.
We got two more left. What's in store for 2022 and beyond? No need to, I know you have NDAs and stuff. No need to share all that, but whatever you feel comfortable sharing. I always say this, but I like this segment because it allows yourself and us and the community to use it as like an incubator. And I believe the power of manifestation and support. And, there's things that you get to share that you're passionate about, and that other people can get behind and support. So.
Well, I think in somewhat vague terms, and it's not vague just because of an NDA. That sounds like a fancy excuse for me being vague, but like really the reason I'm being vague is because I'm a little superstitious about it. I want to just sort of focus on what I'm doing and actually action out the thing that's in front of me. I do have a couple different opportunities that I'm working on right now, and Basically, it was, sort of the broad terms of it is I think I'm on the precipice of having my very first proper, see, I'm getting choked up just even thinking about it. It's basically the first opportunity that I've ever had to show my work in a way that has never been shown before. And, I didn't manufacture it, it just sort of came about, but I'm in sort of an interesting situation where suddenly the thing that is hard to imagine because you just don't know how it's going to express itself is sort of there, that, all I have to do is just sort of work on it. So I think that I'm going to have a gallery showing. It's, the work that I just did for the last 6 to 12 months. I think that's going to happen. If it doesn't, fair enough, fine. But I think the more interesting thing, aside from that, it's just something I'm personally doing that I'm excited about, that I'm great about. But I think what I'm also really excited about is that for the first time in a while, I feel like I am surrounded by people and meeting people, yourself included, everybody in this room actually, where there's like-minded people that are all doing the same things. Nobody's starting from the ground zero. Everybody's just racing along, doing their best work, and we're all just sort of friends now. And in the process of that, suddenly all the things that I wanted to do when I was younger, put together societies, put together art movements and make movies and do sort of the romantic side of something I didn't totally comprehend. How that stuff really comes about is you meet other people who are doing the same thing as you, and I've met a whole host of interesting people, and I'm just really excited to see how all of us sort of express our own unique talents individually, but together. And I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what everybody's trajectory is, but it feels very positive. It feels like we're in the arena. Now what do we do? Now what's next? Now we have all the right pieces. We don't have to, wholesale manufacture it like I did with the band that I wanted to start when I was 14. It's like it's all sort of there. All the talents in the room.
Wow. Yeah. Respectfully, straight up. It's powerful, man. I agree. Thank you for sharing that. It's exciting. And it's real.
It's real. Yeah.
And it's going back to what you were saying before and one of your answers, it's the daily things that you do, knowing that, you have confidence in that and that it's all gonna work out. And you might have like an end vision, but you just do the day-to-day routines and you get there. And oftentimes where you get at the end is even greater and more beautiful than you can even conceive.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to waste your own time thinking that your vision should be the only vision. The beautiful vision that sort of occurs is the one that occurs naturally, and that's the collection of everybody's vision together.
Wow.
And without a doubt, humans harmonize with one another. So if you're in the same room with somebody else and you get along with them, you're going to harmonize. So your dreams are going to harmonize with them, theirs, and then suddenly everybody can do something together, separate but together, like alone but together. It's like, and who knows what can happen in that situation. I'm starting to see little bits and pieces, little great things that are occurring and great people that I've met along the way, and it's just like, oh man, everybody's doing great.
Yeah. Wow. Cheers. Cheers to everyone. Cheers to all of you out there too. Cool. Let's wrap it up. Final one. I would love for you to share with us, what is your idea of paradise?
I was nervous about this question when you mentioned it earlier. What is my idea of paradise? Give me a moment.
Yeah.
This goes back to my thing where it's like, I'm so nervous about, not getting to this certain thing. It's like, and that.
We finally got to it.
Okay, so my idea of paradise, it sounds stupid, or it sounds cheesy perhaps, but I think my idea of paradise is to, to be in a room, doing my work, and just like it's a normal day, maybe there's kids running around, maybe there's a glass of water or a drink on the table or a coffee, and there's work being done, and it's the work that I'm passionate about, and that's kind of it. Just sort of something that seems unattainable right now because I don't have any of those things. kid. I don't have a wife. I don't have a girlfriend right now. I do have work and I do have a desk. And it would be really quite amazing to sit at the desk the way that I do now and have this whole other sort of warmth there that I can drop on and find comfort in that. That's my idea of paradise. Ideally, I'm working on something that's great, it's like that's as great as I want it to be. I don't want to just it's like I don't want to. I hope it's something that's substantial that affects the world. Obviously, those are my ambitions. To do that in a quiet way, to be able to do it in a quiet way. That's what I want.
Whew. Thank you.
Oh man, thank you.
Thanks. It's a wrap, y'all.
Yo,
Stars align. Michael Legato. Thank y'all so much. Yeah.